Hello, welcome back to day 2 where we're still working with complex fractions. So today we're going to throw in fractions that have some variables in them. So we're going to build on what we did yesterday, working on adding and subtracting our numerators to get to one fraction, and then also our denominators. So here, our first fraction, we've got a 3 over a plus 1 over b. Everything that we've learned about with adding fractions is you have to have a common denominator. Now, a and b are not the same, so we have to create a common denominator by multiplying a and b together. So I'm going to make my denominator ab, which in this fraction means I need to multiply my numerator and denominator by b. In this fraction, I need to multiply my numerator and denominator by a. So that's going to now make a common fraction of ab. So I'll add that together. Up in my numerator, I'd have 3b plus 1a, and since they are not common variables, we cannot add those together. So there, the numerator would add up to make 3b plus a, over ab. Now let's work on our denominator. So our denominator, we've got a 4 over 1 minus 2 over a squared. So again, I cannot subtract these until I have a common denominator. Well, this has a denominator of a squared. I have to make this denominator a squared. So I'll multiply both my numerator and denominator by a squared. Now I'm ready to subtract those. So up in my numerator, 4a squared minus 2 over a squared. So there I've now done a adding in my numerator to get one single fraction, and then subtracting down to my denominator to get one single fraction. Now we're ready for the divide piece. So in my numerator, I've got this whole fraction, 3b plus a over ab. Then we're dividing that by this fraction down here, which is 4a squared minus 2 over a squared, which we know how we divide fractions. We actually multiply by the reciprocal. So this is going to be a squared over 4a squared minus 2. So this fraction is the reciprocal of what fraction was down in my denominator. So I take that complex fraction, make it its reciprocal. Next, we would look, do we have any common factors? And here we sneakily have a up here, and we have an a down here. So that a cancels out. This becomes now an a to the first power. Now we're ready to do our multiplication. So I'd distribute this. It would be 3ab plus a squared over, down here I distribute the b, 4a squared b minus 2b. There, now I have one single fraction, 3ab plus a squared over 4a squared b minus 2. And that should be a b there. Kind of looks like a 6, but that would be a b. There it is. And to recap what I did there, since I have this a term, I distribute the a to both of those terms. So I have a monomial times a binomial. And then b, I would distribute that to both terms there. And that's all I can do. There's my simplified version of my answer. Moving on to my second complex fraction, I've got a 1 over x plus 2 plus 5 over x squared. So these are not like denominators. And the only way to make them like denominators would be to multiply them together. So I can make like denominators by introducing an x squared factor to that fraction. And then this fraction, I would introduce the x plus 2. So far now I've made the denominator x plus 2x squared, and over here I've made it x plus 2x squared. So we're going to have now a common denominator. When I start working in my complex fraction here, I'm going to have a common denominator of x squared, x plus 2. Now all I have to do is just add the numerators. And in the numerator, I've got an x squared here, and then plus 5 times x plus 2. All right, heading over to denominator, I've got a 3 over x plus 2, nothing to add down there. So there, now my complex fraction, I've got a single fraction up in my numerator and a single fraction down in my denominator. Then to save some space, I'm just going to erase this part right here and then multiply by the reciprocal of this fraction. So I'm just going to rewrite this to save a little space. So in my denominator, I had the 3 over x plus 2, so I'm going to be multiplying by x plus 2 over 3. And looking at our numerator denominator, looks like I've got an x plus 2, that's going to cancel out. So down here, my denominator, pretty easy to see, I've got a 3x squared. Up in my numerator, I'm going to have an x squared plus 5 times x plus 2. And if you wanted to, 2 got a little out of hand there, and if you wanted to, you could multiply that out. So it'd be x squared plus 5x plus 10. Just distribute that 5 out, and then over 3x squared. So there would be our options, but either way you slice it, you've got it down now to one single fraction. Instead of having the fractions in the numerator, fractions in the denominator, we've got it figured out. So both of these, we use method 1 from yesterday, where we can simplify our numerator to one single fraction, simplify our denominator to one single fraction. Then we can use the dividing method, which is multiplying by the reciprocal, to find our final answer. So that'll wrap up day 2. So we're now ready for our practice, and you can go ahead and get started, and good luck, and we'll see you next time.